new RGB document here. I want to remove the fill color. So I'm just going to hit the / key. Because the fill color is in front of the stroke color, hitting the / key removes that fill. And I'm going to choose my pen tool. And I am going to draw kind of a shape like that. Once you're done, you can hit the escape key and then choose the selection tool. We good? Okay, so let's bring the stroke color forward, and then we're going to hit the shortcut for the stroke panel up here. And I'm going to give this a stroke of, let's say, no, let's go bigger than that. Let's go like to 40. And looking at this shape that we've just created, this blue line through the center, that's called our path, if you did not know that. And then all of the points along the way, these are anchors. And if I click on that anchor, I have these handles. These are also called Bezier adjusters. And if I grab those handles, I can change how, change the geometry of the path as it comes into and out of that handle. So I can make this radius very wide and flat, or I can make it very sharp if I want to. To make it actually a corner, if I long press on the pen tool and hit my anchor point tool, and then click on that one time, it changes it to a corner. If you have a corner here and you need to change it to a curve, click it. Actually, what you want to do is click and drag, and then you can turn it back into a curve. So in this stroke panel, there's a couple options to be aware of. Number one is the weight of the stroke. And this 40-point stroke is going to be this thick because of the dimensions, the pixel dimensions of our artboard. And if we had used something that was like 4 times as big, and we drew a path that was just as big over the artboard, but we chose 40 pixels as the weight, that line would be a quarter of the size that you see now relative to the size of the artboard. So the thickness really comes down to the resolution of your artboard. And so it's important to remember that that weight is relative to the resolution of your artboard. So after the weight, then we have these end caps. And so right now my end caps are flat. And if I click this, I can make them round. This flat one, the stroke terminates at the end of the path right there at both of these ends, but you can also terminate it past the path. And depending on the drawing need, that could become helpful. Okay, so we're going to leave these at flat for right now. The corner doesn't matter in this instance because we don't really have any corners, but we have, just like when we created, we used the path offset tool in the last session we had. And so we did a round, and then there was also the bevel join, and the bevel makes a curve, but it just uses a flat corner. Okay, this is the one that I use a lot, is where the stroke is located. So because this is what's called an open path, it doesn't close, we don't have this option available. The stroke is just on the path, and the path is right down the middle of the stroke. But if I create a rectangle, I can set the placement of that stroke where it aligns to the path. And so I can have it on the outside of my path, I can have it on the inside of my path, and then I can align it to the center of the path if I want to. I can also create a dashed line. This is something that Illustrator really sucks at and has never just gotten the hang of it. So many people have tried to change this, and they just keep coming back to this simple dash line creator. The reason for that is that you can create a customized dash line using a pattern brush, and that's what we're going to be learning how to do today. But if you just need a quick dash line, or something that looks like railroad ties like this right here, this works. So if I just have a number in this first, it just matches the dash and the gap. So each dash is 12 points long, and a point is just like a pixel. It's the same dimensions. So this is 12 pixels, and then I have a 12 pixel gap. Now, if I set another number in this gap here, then I can space those further apart. And if I put another number after that, then I can start to get something that looks like, I guess, a piano keys maybe. And so what it does is this is a very rudimentary patterning system that only gives you these 6 options. So you have a 12-point dash followed by a 30-point gap, followed by a 20-point dash, followed by a 50-point gap, and then it loops back around 12, 30, 20, 30, 50. And that's what we see repeated through this path here. Okay. The arrowheads, these are just arrowheads. So if we want to point to something, we can create an arrowhead. This is something, I love the implementation of the arrowhead in Illustrator. In Google Drawing, I use arrowheads to point to things a lot. And the arrowhead, the size of the arrowhead is relative to the stroke of the path. In Illustrator, you can actually beef it up or tone it down if you want to. So I'm going to put an arrowhead down here at this end and no arrowhead here. And so if I want to, I can scale this guy down, which is kind of cool. And I can, on the other end, if I wanted to, I could do a really big one. And then you can, just like with the stroke alignment, you can set the arrowhead to be after the end of the path or to terminate at the end of the path. That's usually the one you want. This one's, I haven't really used this one very much. Oh, there we go. So you can create a, what would you call that? Excuse me. So when you have just a stationary path, you can have it change width over the length of that path. This we see really well because the path is really short. But if we had a very long path, this wouldn't be as pronounced as it is. It would be stretched out over a much larger distance. So the advantage of this is we can add some shape dynamics very quickly and not have to go in and create our own stroke, our own pattern brush. Okay, everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to move this down here, and I'm going to set this back to its default Okay. Like that. Okay. What did I want to call this? Okay. So in the panels over here, and Jen, you might not know about this, but these panels are dockable and undockable. The little double arrowheads at the top allow you to collapse these into giving you more real estate here if you need it. And then the double arrowhead, it's like toggle, so you can click it and pop those out if you want. I'm kind of old school. I like to ride with all of my panels out. But if you don't like this arrangement of panels, you can actually pull these away and like put some over here if you want. You actually can dock over to this side if you want to create another column of panels, and these can be tucked away as well.
Cool.
Also, anything that you add, so let's say we want to have our Pathfinder, so you can actually drag that into, and you'll see that blue show up there. That means it's going to go right here. If it's on the right-hand side here or on the left-hand side here, that means it'll make a new column. But that means it's going to dock underneath that guy there. Okay. So in our panels, we have these default brushes. And so again, Illustrator is all about the context. So if you're going to change something, you have to make sure that that thing is selected. And I'm going to apply a brush to this. This one is the charcoal pencil brush. So if I click on that, it's going to default to 1 pixel. But if I bump it back up, I'll be able to see what that looks like. The default brushes are very, very, very basic. If you click the little menu here, the hamburger, you can open a brush library. And so we can do like artistic, and let's do calligraphic or calligraphic maybe. I think I'm gonna talk this over here. So these are kind of basic. Let's open up a new brush. So there are quite a few built in. Some of these, I don't know why Adobe included these, because they're a specific shape and color. It's like, you know, you better have a specific purpose for that particular, like, when am I going to use that? Oh, maybe I'm drawing some bubbles. So that's fine. So scattered brushes. Okay. I want to go back to my original. Okay. And so we can actually create our own brushes if we want to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw out a rectangle here. And And I'm going to, with my pen tool, I'm going to add a couple anchor points. And I'm going to remove the stroke and give it a fill. Okay, so that looks terrible. That's a little less terrible. Okay, so I've got this weird dookie shape, and I'm going to drag this over into my brushes. Let go, and it's going to ask what kind of brush that I want. Do I want a scatter brush, an art brush, or a pattern brush? Let's do art brush first. And it wants to know what the direction of this thing is here. Is it start from here to there, or does it start from here to there? I'm going to have it go that direction, and I'm going to have it stretch to fit the stroke length. So that means that it will get thinner and thinner as the length of the stroke increases. Okay, so I'll select this stroke and choose that brush, and now I've created that shape. Cool. Okay, so that's just like a basic rundown of how you can create your own brush. We're going to create one that's kind of fun. I'm going to get rid of this right now. So let's all do this together now. So if you've gotten anything drawn, go ahead and let's get rid of it. And we are going to create a rectangle that is 5 pixels by 5 pixels. Ooh, that is way too small. We are not going to create a rectangle 5 pixels by 5 pixels. We're going to create a rectangle 20 by 20. That makes more sense. Okay. And we are going to remove the stroke. And we're going to give this a fill of red. All right, once we have this, we're going to hold down the Alt key, click and drag down until that snaps to the edge of that. And then we're going to do, so what I did is I held the Alt key down and then clicked and dragged to make a copy and snapped it right to the edge of that. Now I'm going to hit Control or Command D to duplicate that movement 4 more times. So we end up with 6 squares. So the second square, we'll make it.
Did you change the shape of your artboard?
No, I'm just zoomed in.
Okay. And why does mine look so big?
So the box we made, so originally I said 5 pixels by 5 pixels, but that was too tiny. So I changed it to 20 pixels by 20 pixels.
That should be 20 by 20. How can I tell?
if you select it and click open the transform panel, you can see the width and the height of it. Okay, how are we doing, everybody?
Still trying to get it back to 20 by 20. I thought that's what I had selected originally, but it went to 100. And I don't know why it switched.
Well, if you want, just select everything and delete it. And then choose your selection tool, then go back to the rectangle tool. And then click on the screen. And then when it gives you the little dialog box, just enter 20 by 20 in there. That should fix it.
Go back to the rectangle tool.
Did that work?
Yeah. Let me make the 6 of them. What was it? What was it to copy?
Hold down the Alt key and then click and drag down.
Okay.
Good morning, sweetheart. Good morning.
I'm on a meeting.
Hi, AJ's mom. Damn it. That's awesome. I love it.
All righty. Okay.
I had just paused the video, so lucky for AJ that didn't get recorded.
Oh, really?
Lucky, yes, lucky for you. Your mom sounds very sweet.
Yeah, she is. I told her on a conference call, she's just noped out of here.
That's funny.
Oh, I hope I got everyone's laughs for the day.
Yes.
Okay, making my last one purple.
Okay, cool. Did it pause or did it not pause? I don't know. Maybe it did record it.
I know. I think it probably is recorded. I don't know.
Okay, excellent. All right, I'm glad we got that. Perfect. Yeah, it says it's still recording.
Oh.
Yep. Okay, we did get it. Rad. I love it. I'm keeping that. Okay, cool. Okay, let's save this. I called mine pattern brush for some reason. Oh, because we're making a pattern brush. That's why. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to make sure we have the brushes panel open. If it's not visible, just choose window and then brushes. And then we're going to drag select all 6 of our squares together.
How did you do that?
Just click and drag
Okay.
across the squares like that.
Okay.
All right. So you can drag these in here, or you can choose the new brush tool. And we want to create a pattern brush. And it's going to ask us to name it. Let's call it rainbow, not rainbow.
Do we change anything else in that?
Let me just look at mine, make sure everything is correct here. So so see this notch right here? This is an inside corner. We need to tell it what to do with that. Let's see. This one is set as auto sliced. Let's do that with this one too. Oh no, that's not an option. Yeah, it is. There we go. So choose auto sliced for that inside corner.
Okay.
You could also, if you wanted to, create other, like a start and an end for that brush. And you can actually import other graphics, but we're not going to do that right now. We're going to leave it as is. Our key color, it doesn't matter. Your method should be set to none because we don't want to change the color of the rainbow. If this was something that we wanted to be able to change the color of, then you could choose tints and shades or hue shift. So like if you chose hue shift on this one, if we selected a different color while this thing was selected on a stroke, then it would shift the hues based on that color. If this thing was in grayscale, then it would just tint, or if it was a solid black, we could just tint it, which means it would just take on whatever color we chose. But we're going to leave it at none for right now.
And it's stretched to fit?
Yes, stretch to fit. Okay, click OK. All right, let's zoom out, Control or Command 0. And my original source for that brush, I'm going to move off to the pasteboard so I don't accidentally mess it up. And let's just choose the curvature tool.
Wait. How did you move that off?
Just selected it and clicked and dragged it.
Yeah, I tried. Seems like I need to struggle through everything.
Make sure that make sure that you have the selection tool selected and then drag across it. So if it's selected like that, then you can click and move it.
Yeah, okay. Don't know why it didn't work.
We're going to
I tried.
Sometimes if you don't hit it right on the shape, it gets funky. Okay, so I'm going to, with my pen tool, I'm going to click and drag up like this, about a third of the way up. And then right here on the center line, I'm going to click and drag to the right, about a third of the way. And then over here on the far right, I'm going to drag down about a third. Yeeks, that's terrible. Okay, it looks like a hill. All right, so with the direct selection tool, let's grab that and let's pull these handles out. If you, whoops. If you hold down the shift key while you're dragging, it will constrain that. There we go. So that's what we're looking for right there. How you doing, Jen?
I'm watching.
Is it not working?
I can't see what I'm doing and keep up with you.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so yeah, I'm recording this so you can watch along with the video afterwards if you'd like. Okay, so with this shape selected, I want to remove the fill color. So the fill color is in front of the stroke down here. If it's not, just hit the X key to toggle it forward. Hit the / key, and then bring the stroke forward, and let's give it like a stroke of black just so we can see it. And now we can apply our rainbow brush. And we made a friggin' rainbow.
Ooh.
Yay, and this that looks like the rain stopped all the way. Cool. So that's exciting. But we're going to go one step further with this. I'm going to just kind of move my rainbow off the pasteboard here. Save my file. And I am going to drop some text onto this artboard here. I'm probably going to need to bump this up as big as possible. And I'm going to type my first initial. Go big with this. There we go. And I want to find a typeface that has some kind of fun accents to it. Like brush script, that works. That's one of them that could work. What else do we have here? Noteworthy, that works. So go ahead and put your first initial. Okay, and what we're going to do is we are going to lock this in place. So object, oh geez, where is it from the menu? Well, it's Control-2. Oh, lock right there. Lock selection. So now we can't select it or mess with it or anything like that. And I'm going to grab the pen tool and I'm going to just kind of recreate this shape. As though I were drawing it with a pen. So see, I just made one stroke. So if I was to like write this with a pen or a paintbrush, I would do one stroke across and then I would do one stroke down and around like that. So I did one, and now I'm going to do this one here with my pen tool, kind of using my curves to mimic and keep this along the center line as much as possible. Okay. Getting rid of that fill. And so now I have two strokes, one that goes across here and then one that comes down. And I'm going to apply our rainbow. Now, because we're so zoomed in and this is so tiny, it looks awful. So let's see, I'm gonna make this bigger. Does that help a little bit? Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna unlock my J, get rid of it. I'm gonna select this stroke here. I'm gonna bring it forward. And it's still gigantic. So I'm gonna have to go down to a 0.5 point on the stroke there. Cool. Now, unfortunately, because we're using a pattern brush, none of these options change anything because all of that is controlled by the brush here. So if I wanted to create a rounded end cap, I could go back and tweak this out. So I'll show you how to fix that. This is like extra credit here. So I just made a copy of this shape and I'm going to drag it out so that it's square like that. And I'm going to choose a ellipse tool. I'm going to grab up here and just drag so that it fills that shape there. And then using my shape builder tool, holding down the Alt key. Oops, I need to select all of that first. Holding down the shape builder key, I can get rid of. Oh, you know what though? This needs to be in the back. There we go. Because I want to see the rainbow, not the black part. So using the shape builder, I can get rid of these little pieces, and all I'm doing is just holding the holding down the Alt key and then clicking on these overlapping shapes removes that. Cool. Okay, and then one last thing, I'm going to switch back to the rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw a rectangle like that. And what do I want to do? No, not that. How do I split this? Will that work? There we go. So I drew a line down the center and I used my Pathfinder tool to divide everything. I ungrouped it, and so now I have this separate from that. So I should be able to bring this into, oh, not that one. I want to edit this one. Yikes. Oh, I have to do, okay. You know what, I'm gonna stop it right here because it's 11:18 and we've gone for an hour now. So I think we're good. I'm gonna finish this up in the next, in the video that gets pushed online. But that is how we can create a pattern brush and apply it to a stroke. Any questions?
No.
Okay, awesome. Let's go back over here.
Hey, Cooksy.
Yes, sir.
Can we hop on a call after you're done with this real quick? If you have time.
I need to use the restroom, but yes.
No, not allowed.
Whoa, Miles. Okay.
Sounds good.